Welcome to Impact Marketer from Klout Consulting. My name's Stephen Laddick, and I'm the Director of Growth at Klout. Today's episode focuses on a company called Artizara. Artizara is a pioneer in the online modest fashion space. They've been around since 2002, and they've been a client at Klout for more than a year. I'm joined on this episode by Rony Hay, who's the CEO and founder of Klout, and Kevin Pham, who's our COO. In this episode, we discuss how we've been able to drive continued success and scale for Artizara with our signature Ultimate Paid Ads Advantage program. I invite you to join us for the next 20 minutes or so as we dive into the details of things like the status of Artizara when they came on board with us as an almost decade-old brand that was doing well, but not growing rapidly and acquiring new clients. We talk about how the previous marketing agency Artizara worked with wasn't able to find new customers to continue to scale the company, and how their data was finessed to look good rather than actually delivering on performance. We also talk about the key metrics we use to immediately create a difference in performance during the onboarding process, and why an organized, structured, and uniform campaign in Facebook is absolutely essential for being able to scale success. We also talk about the fundamental mistake in Artizara's ad sets that were limiting their growth that we fixed. And finally, we wrap up with what questions businesses owners should ask an agency like Klout before working with them, and the lessons that we learned from the Artizara experience to continue to refine and improve our service. But before we dive in, a quick word from our sponsor.
Klout Consulting is the gold standard for e-commerce paid advertising. We help our clients scale and generate massive return through paid advertising platforms like Facebook and Instagram. For more information, visit kloutconsulting.com.
Hi guys, welcome to the show. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good.
Doing amazing.
Rony, where do we find you sitting today? You've been, traversing the world, living the life of the digital nomad. Where are you?
I'm currently in Dallas, Texas.
Super cool. And Kevin, you are sitting in a library somewhere in, I don't know where. No, where are you sitting today?
I am currently in Boston, Mass right now at my parents' house.
Fantastic.
Nice. I thought it was a walk-in closet.
I am actually in a walk-in closet in Mexico City. So, I mean, there you go. There's the virtual reality, right?
Nice.
We're here to talk about a client called Artizara that we've been working with for a while. Rony, I'm going to pass it over to you. Why don't you introduce Sarah, her company, kind of what she does, and, how long she's been in business, those kinds of things.
Sure. So Sarah owns a company called Artizara. They are a niche, modest Muslim fashion brand, or lifestyle brand is what they would like to call it. Selling anything from apparel, jewelry, art, to laptop covers. Of course, I would say the bulk of their business is in the apparel industry. And I believe they've been in business for over 10 years now. We're coming up on 10 years. We had recently met and onboarded them this year. And that's kind of the context of who they are. Super cool.
Kevin, you want to take this one, whatever, or whoever? What was the state of the business of Artizara when we came in contact with them? I mean, if it's been around for 10 years, obviously, is this an established business? She was having success, but why would she be looking for us? Like, what's the business?
So yeah, she was an established business, growing organically, albeit slow. Hence why she came out to us. But they hit on something. They hit on a really good market, and had awesome growth and consistent growth, and they built a community around their brand. And while that was a good thing, right? Because when you build a community through word of mouth, you have a good product or offer. So that was amazing. But they couldn't figure out how to acquire new customers. They saw their returning customer rate being extremely high, and no matter what they tried to do on the ad side, they still saw the number of new customers kind of become stagnant.
Okay. Can you give us a sense? Do you remember, what kind of turnover they were doing? What kind of monthly return they were doing when we met them?
Yeah. So if you were to look at how they were doing in the Facebook engine, I would say they were doing okay, right? They were above a 2x, which is okay in my books, but there was much room for improvement. But
for everybody who's listening as well, that's a 2x on return on ad spend, right? ROAS. Okay.
Yep. Well, if you were to look at how they did lifetime, they spent around $80,000 and only made about 1.54 in return ad spend. So not that good.
Yeah. So in the retail world, like, give us a sense, Kevin, like what, you've been doing this for a long time. You said, okay, 1.54 on $80,000 spend. Isn't that good? What are you normally looking for in this kind of business?
So in this niche, so her niche is so just competitive, because there's top brands, right? But I know these top brands, their ROAS is at least a minimum of a 3x, all the way into a 6x. So compared to her competitors, she was above, no, she was below average.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, her ad spend that we were looking at when we first met with her, she was, a little less than 20K a month. Do I have that right? Not on her spend, but her top line revenue, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. So when she showed up, I know that as you said, her ads weren't performing well. She wasn't getting a great return. She wanted to get more clients. Is that when she came, she said, look, this is the big problem I want to solve. I want to scale quickly, or was there another set of problems that we tried to solve?
Yeah. So her biggest problem that she had with other marketing, the agency, was that they couldn't bring her new customers. Her main goal was to really drive new customer acquisition, and how past marketing the agency did for her was they were able to bring her just revenue with her current customers, but not new customer acquisition on top of that current customer base.
And
So
I just want to add to that really quickly. This is kind of the issue with marketing, is that it's kind of like financial statements. They can kind of be, I guess, tinkered to look good in a certain way. And so, the previous agency, I don't know what their incentive was, or if they're only looking at ROAS, but if you look at the ad account, they're performing great. But a lot of that was remarketing. And not driving new customer acquisition, maybe through, or the lack of excluding previous purchase data from their prospecting campaigns.
Okay, excellent. You kind of took me right into where I wanted to go next with it. So, what was our approach? Sort of take me through the process of onboarding Artizara, looking at, like you said, that past performance, and then what were the key metrics or the key pieces that we looked at? Was it a full rebuild of her campaigns? Was it creating efficiencies in the campaigns that she did? She already had. Kind of walk me through that process.
Yeah. So when we take on any account, we always look at one, how they did in 30 days, 2 months, and just a whole lifetime span. And basically we don't look for any sort of trend, right? But on the prospecting side, if she's not doing well there, we look at why. Is there a proper setup with the prospecting campaigns with lookalike interest as well? But what we find, actually, why finding all of the accounts that come to us, is there's no proper structure. And if there's no proper structure, so think of it as a house, right? If you don't have the proper foundation, then why would you want to have a roof on top? Because it's just gonna collapse.
Okay. All right.
And
now you're talking specifically about the Facebook ecosystem right now. So is this a recommended structure that is, comes from Facebook, or is this a structure that you've developed or we've developed over time? Or, how does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say it's a blend of what Facebook recommends, but also of time and experience that I have in the accounts I manage, and I see which performs the best at a certain time, and what proper campaigns you need to start.
All right, so take me there. So when you looked at her campaigns again, was it, hey, we need to kind of throw this out and just sort of rebuild from the ground up? Was there enough enough good stuff there that you were kind of remodeling, so to speak, or what's the normal process there?
Yeah. So how I looked at her account was that she actually had some well-performing prospecting campaigns, well-performing remarketing campaigns. But the thing is that there was no structure. None of the campaigns were uniform across the board. And when I talk about uniform across the board, like I mean maybe a certain setting, right? Like your attribution window or conversion window should always be 7-day click plus 1-day view or 7-day click. But if you were to look internally, everything was mixed up together and nothing was uniform. So so how we take on any account, we look at past performance history, then we make our brand own new campaigns, then we launch with those revised settings.
And Ronnie, how do you explain this to somebody like Sarah? I'm assuming
Sure.
she's been around for 10 years. She's a business owner. She cares about the products. She cares about customer service. I'm assuming she's not interested in diving into the details. Like, what do you put on her table to say, this is what we're changing and this is how we're going to create efficiency?
Yeah, so it's always going to depend per client, but actually Sarah loves the details. She, like most of the founders we talk to, they know their product and they know their customers extremely well. Sarah was also a notch above, where she understood ads and analytics very, very well, from Google Analytics, Facebook Analytics, to the ads. Yeah, so she knew all the numbers very well. And I think when it came to the nuances of campaign structure, with Sarah, it was as simple as explaining, like, hey, this is the best practice that we've seen, and this is why we think you should change it. And that's kind of it. Like, she understands what the conversion windows are. So in that situation that Kevin is talking about, all we said is, hey, like, right now you're telling Facebook, based on the definition of their setting, is that you're optimizing for 2 different conversion windows, in 2 different campaigns. We want the entire account to be working together, so we should have all our campaigns with the same settings, and that's our recommendation. So that's kind of how we bring it up to them.
Okay. Do you find that you get a lot of pushback from other clients that aren't like Sarah, or is there just sort of a general, like, I don't understand what's going on, just kind of make it so, and
I would say
metrics, or are you finding that most founders they want to get into those details and they want to know?
I would say 80% of them, there's no pushback at all. They're usually coming to us when things are broken, and they want help, and so they'll gladly accept the recommendations. There's 10 to 20% of them that do push back, or just question deeper, I guess. Like, they question deeper because nothing is really set in stone or written out in one place, and everyone has a different opinion. And it's true, marketing is like science and art, and this is kind of our flavor, Kevin's flavor of running ads. So it's somewhere in between, I would say.
Okay, excellent. Kevin, take me through. So if you're, she came with the goal of, I've got this great community and they're buying from me, but I want to continue to scale. I want to continue to grow. What was her fundamental mistake in the ad sets that you were looking at when, she first showed up, and how did we, modify that to create success?
Yeah, that's a good question. So her fundamental problem with prospecting campaigns was that she was targeting way too narrow, right? I remember one campaign that she was targeting. It was actually a lookalike 1%, and the potential reach was about 130,000 people, right? So if you think of 130,000 people, that's quite a lot of people. But to Facebook, that's nothing.
Right. They got what, 3 or 4 billion now, right? So it's like,
exactly, yeah. So when the recommended size is at least 1 million, but most importantly 2 million, and that's where we needed to open up the hood, take a look at why her niche was so narrow, then expand it just a little bit more.
So it almost sounds like, if anybody who's out there who's been entrepreneurial in the digital universe right now, the push is always niche, right? It's like, find out, where's your passion at, and then, narrow that down even more. But what you're saying is you need to take that, but then don't limit yourself to 50 people when you're trying to target ads. It really needs to be a much broader set.
Right. But that's a perfect example. What most clients don't understand, and what most marketers don't understand, is how the Facebook algorithm works. And basically, how the algorithm works is that you have to feed it with a whole bunch of with a lot of targeting and audience size to make it perform more efficiently. Once you give it a proper audience size, then it can optimize more efficiently. But if you could give it like a way too small number size, then there's no optimization to be done.
So when we took over the account, one of the dangers here for some is that this is a complete reset for the Facebook account, and so Facebook's going to have to relearn and go through that algorithm process again. Is that a day process? Is that weeks? Is that months? Like, what kind of turnaround could someone like Sarah expect when we take over their account and rethink the structure?
Yeah, so it's funny because every client that comes to us asks the same question, and we can't promise them a certain time point. But with Sarah and most of our clients, she saw results in a matter of less than 1 week.
That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, is that just sort of the magic of the sauce, or did you attribute that to her product line, her customer base, her time on Facebook, or?
So her brand and her products are top notch, right? So she did half the work already, or most of the work. All I did was really tweak it a little bit, change up the settings. Then that's where it really took off.
Awesome. If I'm an entrepreneur looking to, like, what questions could I ask an agency like Klout to sort of suss out whether or not they know or they're savvy about campaign structure, niche targeting, these kinds of things? Like, are there critical questions I should be asking as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, you can ask what's their process to ads, and also ask about their failures.
Okay. Do you want a lot of failures? I mean, like, or do you?
You don't want a lot of failures, but you want to understand their thought process and how they manage failures, because every agency is going to nitpick the wins that they've had.
Okay, excellent. What were any lessons that Klout learned with this client? Was it working with Sarah as an entrepreneur who gets into the details, who gets into the analytics? Was it surprise in the turnaround time of the reconfiguring your account? What did we learn?
Kevin, you can start. I'm sure we'll share like two different opinions.
Yeah. So I have two things. One is to know your audience, right? And the audience being Sarah as a client. So Sarah is super smart. So she knows the ins and outs of marketing. But what we had to do was really present our plan in a way for her to see the long-term plan of things and to tell her why her current setup it isn't working, right? So that's one. Two, what I learned from Sarah is that care and just caring for her account in general is what she cares about. If you know her brand, her niche, her audience size, then that's where she actually warmed up to us and allowed us to actually make more changes to the account. We gave her more recommendations, and that's when she finally she just accepted Klout as a whole.
Let me follow up with that before you jump in there, Rony. Is it, again, looking from the business owner perspective inwards, when I'm approaching an agency or I'm approaching a process like this, should I demand that? Like should I demand, say, hey, look, I should have a personal connection, or is that something that I can demand from the outset, or are there just so many different processes out there?
Rony?
He's asking you.
Sorry, I was asking you.
Oh, sorry. It's recommended to have that personal touch. That personal touch will make the client stay or leave, really, because you can have their numbers at the end of the day. You can have all their goals accomplished, but if you don't have that personal touch, then they have no reason to stay with you, right? So for me, for example, Sarah really liked that I installed Shopify on my phone. So every new order she got on my phone, it popped up. And I would always tell her, hey, we just got this new order from from like maybe Sing from Singapore, right? And she really liked that because I was really in tune and in touch with her whole entire business as a whole.
Fantastic. That's great. Ronnie, what kind of lessons did you learn or kind of takeaways have you had so far from this client?
Sure. One of them was that we have to instill confidence in the long-term vision when working with clients. We had an amazing first month with Sarah, and then our second month was really rocky. And then the third month we crushed it. And if she didn't feel reassured that we had some hope of fixing it, that second month she easily could have let us go. But since then, it's been an amazing engagement. So I think, this is going to be the issue, I guess, with any marketing service. You're going to have ebbs and flows of the business and seasonality and whatnot. So I think being able to reassure and normalize the challenges up ahead for our clients is going to be super helpful for them moving forward.
Okay, you see, great. That's what you kind of took me to my last question for our talk today is, what can I expect as a business owner when I'm working for an agency about, not predicting the future, but looking at the future? Are there a couple of things that you've expected to put out for clients at Klout about, here's what we look at 3 months or 6 months from now? Or is it really a month to month? Let's let the client do the leading. So
it's a little bit of both. We are essentially a consultancy that's very niche down to paid ads. And so we kind of start with what they're trying to do and align hopefully our efforts with their goals, but of course, while also giving our experience and recommendation if that's reasonable or not. So we've had clients that want to optimize for, cost per acquisition on an individual sale basis or overall growth, or, in Sarah's case, number of returning customers. So it really depends on their goals, and then we can kind of come up with a game plan to hit that. But usually it's revenue growth. We're in the business of making you business.
Fantastic. Kevin, any closing thoughts on Artizara? I know that we're still working with her and, business is good, but anything that you're looking forward to in the future?
Yeah, next year actually. So unlike other brands and other like businesses, Q4 isn't really that important to her, right? Her Q4 started maybe in May through July because that's when the major holidays are for Ramadan, right?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, and with that, once you build that rapport and you build up her email base, you build up her existing customer base with all the conversions we bring in, then it's just going to propel you for the next holiday, right? So in next May through July, that's going to be a killer month for us, for Artizara, since we already had that rapport.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, as with everything, we've come to the end of our talk now today because we're super busy. So I wish you all the best, and we'll see you next time on Impact Marketer. Hey there. If you like what you heard in this episode, please do me the favor of giving us a like, because it really does help. And of course, you can always subscribe to Impact Marketer so you never miss an episode. And finally, more importantly, if you'd like to get the type of results that we talk about on this show, drop us a line at kloutconsulting.com, and we'd love to help you. Thanks.